the Selectmen to order. Will you all please rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on our agenda we have interviewed treasurer / collector candidate, Mr. Dow. Would you like to?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get into it, I'd like to point out that this is probably a historic occasion in North Reading, since there has never been a new treasurer collector appointed since October of 1978. When Joe Doherty was appointed acting, and subsequently she was appointed permanent in the spring of the following year. So this is really relatively new to all of us. That being said, we advertised and we had 9 or 10 responses. We interviewed 4, and as you know, there were 2 candidates that we recommended and 1 withdrew. Not to take away from his abilities. I sort of default. This is the #1 candidate. I've known Liz for a number of years. She was worked in the treasurer's office in Littleton for about 8 years, and in the last 18 months of her service, she was the acting treasurer. There was a clause in the town charter that said when the treasurer retired, it would be combined with a part-time collector's job to be a full-time job. Liz was a candidate for that job, and unfortunately lost out on a 3-2 vote by the Board of Selectmen. She's been interviewed by Allison Olson, Laurie Ann Galvin, and myself, and again by Tom Younger, and myself and Allison. And we feel that she's qualified, and with that, this is Elizabeth Rivera.
Good evening. How are you?
Very nice.
Well, we certainly want to thank you for applying. I'm sure the board may have just a few questions to ask. So I think I will start, if you don't mind, and I want to introduce myself. I'm Joseph Bino, chairman of the board.
Nice to meet you.
Actually, let me introduce my board to you.
Okay.
James Muldoon, John Murphy, and Dana Rowe.
Hi.
And Linda Mazzola is our secretary. Bob Torres is the only one in the room. There's not many here. That's good. And again, I want to welcome you here. First question I would have: do you have any special areas of expertise that we should be aware of?
Do you have copies of my resume? Did you? Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you did. Well, I believe my people skills are very good, working with the public. And I think my ability in the treasurer's office is outstanding. I think it's stated in my
Yes,
resume.
it was. And I guess I'll just ask one more. What do you think is the most important role or function of the collector treasurer?
I think to be a team player with all the other departments. Because I think it's important to be able to coordinate everything with that and to work for the public, because that's what we do as employees in town, is work for those people out there that are paying
Thank you.
our salaries.
Thank you. Mr. Muldoon.
Well, I had 4, just in case one of mine or a couple were already asked. And I was going last, so now I'm going first. I'll just pick 2 that interested me. In your resume, you said that you implemented and customized cost-saving in-house accounting and payroll system. What ideas do you think you can bring to this position and help the town of North Reading?
Well, I'd really like to see what's going on before I could make any kind of a judgment on what to do. with the one that I did with the town of Middleton, we actually had an outside service bureau doing our payroll, which was costing the town about $2,000 a month at that point. And I knew this was something that we could do in-house. But I believe everything is being done in-house here. It may be just a matter of going through and seeing how things can be just better coordinated and with everybody working together on it. But I really would have to see what is going on first.
What thoughts do you have on budgetary recommendations that would benefit the finance director?
Again, I'd have to take a look at what is happening. Depending on what is coming in for revenues and how they're coming in, would depend on what I can tell him that we have to work with. And I think the same would be with my investments, depending on what is coming in and how I could invest them to make the most amount of money for the town.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more.
Okay.
Just briefly, a lot of companies are starting to use a large use of electronic funds transfer.
Yeah.
Direct deposits for
Yes.
employees. Is that something you believe in and that
Yes,
you
I
think should
do.
expand?
I don't know if the town does that now, but I do think that works very well. I think automatic deposits, I think, especially with paychecks, I think it could save the town some money. Money is not, it's only there when it has to be there. One of the things that I had done with the town of Middleton was some of our checking account, when we had a warrant that was signed, at first we were transferring the exact amount into the checking account from our savings and our investments. And we found that by setting up a system where, as the check came in, then the money was transferred automatically, so that it left the bulk of money sitting in an interest-bearing account rather than pulling it out all at once. So I mean, I'd have to see how the system is set up here. And
Okay. Thank you
I hope
very
that
much.
answers your.
Mr. Murphy, do you have any questions?
You mean to wait go all the way
Oh,
to
well,
the end?
I
That's okay.
could if I...
That's okay.
Want to wait?
No, that's it.
Okay, good.
I note in your resume that you, and forgive me because I'm not positive of the certification, but you have the treasurer's collector's certification.
I had the treasurer's collector's education. At that time, the association's rules were that you had to be an appointed treasurer or a collector in order to receive certification. I had the education for both of them, but because I was not officially appointed, I could not receive the certification.
Okay. Is it, as a follow-on to that, then you would get that certification?
Yes, absolutely. I believe they still offer it in the month of August out at UMass.
Okay. You've been out of the public sector quite a while. Why?
I've been out of
back to-
municipalities for a while.
Well, actually, you've been in nonprofit and
Yes.
public sector. I apologize. So,
Yeah.
municipal.
Yeah.
Did you? Why do you? What's driving you to re-enter municipal?
I really believe that I can serve this community well. The reason I had left the nonprofit that I was working with was logistics. It was up north, and it just got to be a lot going up there and coming home only 2 days a week. And I know I can serve this community well. I have the background. I'm excellent with people. I'm a hard worker.
Three biggest strengths? Your three biggest strengths?
Communication with people, a drive, I guess just the willingness to learn.
Three weaknesses?
3 weaknesses. First one is definitely that I tend to overdo things. Like, sometimes my communication skills with certain people aren't as strong as I'd like them to be. And sometimes I find it difficult to delegate things because I want to get the job done myself.
Some of the earlier questions we talked about change. And obviously change, some people react positively and some people react negatively to change. Do you have any examples of a change that you were involved in implementing that you got adverse reaction and how you dealt with that?
Well, I think with the last position I had with the nonprofit, we had to make some changes to some of the benefits that we offered some of our volunteers, and it was tough doing that at first and explaining it to them, the reasons why, but we had to do it because of finances. And once they realized why we were doing it, they totally understood. I think it's just a matter of explaining it to them and giving them the facts. So I think if you can give them the facts, they understand it better.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Rowe?
I don't have a copy of your resume, but you were in the, you did work for Town of Middleton?
Yes, I did, for 8 years.
Were you in the county retirement system?
Pardon me?
Were you in the retirement?
Yes, I was.
Will you be transferring that time into this system?
This was something that I had just asked George about in reference to, I think I'd have to check into that and see if it's possible. I think it would depend on how long it would take me to pay it back, if I can at that point. Because I transferred my funds out of the county retirement system and rolled them over into some Fidelity funds. And I don't know if I could even bring them back into it. So.
How long were you in municipal?
8 years.
8 years? Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Mr. Younger, do you have any comments?
No, I'm pleased, Ms. Guerrero. We did advertise in all the professional publications with the Mass Municipal Association on their website. Obviously, we scoured all of Massachusetts, and obviously, I mean, what we received, she was the best candidate and was highly recommended one.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Meldo?
I move to approve Elizabeth, get your name right, Cravero as the new treasurer in the town of North Reading.
Second.
Motion made and second. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Any further discussion? Mr. Dell?
Just one point of procedure. That appointment should be effective March 1st. Because Mrs. Doherty will still be here until February 28th.
I will amend it to March 1st.
And to amend it further to expire December 31st, because isn't a one-year appointment to the end of the year?
Normally, the treasurer's appointment has been to June 30th.
June 30th, that's right, I'm sorry, you're right, yeah.
And then July 1st, or June 30th, the reappointment is made from July 1st to...
So it would be March 1st to June 30th.
That's correct, right.
March